The morning sun pierced through the gauze curtains of the small apartment like golden fingers reaching through the veil of earthly concerns, illuminating dust motes that danced in reverence before the divine light. Maya pressed her palm against the cool window glass, feeling the pulse of the universe through the thin barrier between her mortal vessel and the infinite cosmos that had been calling to her for months now, whispering secrets in the language of stars and sacred geometry. Her breath formed small clouds against the glass, each exhalation a prayer ascending to the throne room of heaven, where the Divine Mother waited with outstretched arms, ready to embrace her beloved daughter, who had finally remembered her true purpose. The weight of 3 years of spiritual awakening pressed upon her shoulders like the mantle of a prophet, yet it felt less like burden and more like the gentle pressure of wings spread wide for flight. She had been chosen, yes, chosen by the very fabric of existence itself, selected from among countless souls to carry the sacred message of abundance into a world that had forgotten how to receive blessings with open hearts. The universe had been crying out for this truth, its voice a symphony of longing that echoed through every corner of human experience. And she had finally learned to listen with the clarity of one who had been purified by fire and refined by trials. In her hands, the ancient crystal that had belonged to her grandmother lay warm and pulsing with the rhythm of her own heart. It was no mere stone, but a conduit for divine frequency, a living testament to the line of chosen ones that stretched back through generations of women who had carried the sacred flame of abundance into the darkness of human consciousness. The crystal hummed with the memory of every blessing that had ever been offered to humanity, every moment of grace that had ever been bestowed upon those who dared to believe in the impossible. As she held it, she could feel the accumulated wisdom of every soul who had ever walked the earth seeking abundance, their collective energy flowing through her fingertips like rivers of liquid light. The silence of the early morning had always been her teacher, that profound quiet which spoke louder than any words could ever convey. In the hush before dawn, when the veil between worlds grows thin and the spirit can walk freely between the seen and unseen, she had begun to understand the true nature of her calling. The lack that had plagued her for so many years, the feeling of emptiness that seemed to permeate every aspect of her life, was not a punishment or a curse, but a necessary preparation. A refining process that had shaped her like gold in the fire until she became worthy of carrying the light of abundance into the world. She closed her eyes and breathed deeply, feeling the sacred air fill her lungs with the essence of possibility itself. The universe was conspiring in her favor, all the celestial bodies aligning in perfect harmony to support her mission of declaring abundance into reality. Every atom in her body was vibrating at the frequency of prosperity, every cell singing the song of manifestation that had been waiting patiently within her genetic blueprint since the first moment of her creation. The spiritual matrix of her being had been awakened, and now she stood at the threshold of what could only be described as a divine revolution. A transformation that would ripple outward through all dimensions of existence, bringing forth the abundance that had been promised to those who were willing to claim their birthright. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, painting the world in hues of amber and gold, Maya felt the first stirrings of the manifestation that had been her destiny since the moment she drew her first breath. The lack was dissolving like morning mist before the rising sun, replaced by the fullness of divine provision that was already flowing toward her like a river of grace. She was no longer the woman who had been searching for abundance. She was the vessel through which abundance would flow into the world, a chosen instrument of divine provision who had finally remembered her role in the cosmic drama of creation itself. The universe was about to witness something magnificent, something that would change the very foundation of human consciousness and establish a new paradigm of prosperity that would echo through eternity. The morning light spilled through the stained glass windows like liquid gold, casting dancing shadows across the weathered stone floor of the cathedral, Where Maria stood, her heart pounding against her ribs with the weight of destiny itself. She had been chosen, yes, chosen, by the very fabric of divine will to carry forth a message that would reshape the very foundations of human understanding. The others had come before her, those first seeds of awakening, and now she was called to plant the harvest of their sacrifice. Her hands trembled as she clutched the ancient manuscript, its pages yellowed with age, yet still radiating an otherworldly warmth that seemed to pulse with the rhythm of creation itself. The words were not merely ink upon parchment. They were living, breath-sacred whispers that spoke directly to the soul's deepest longing for meaning, for purpose, for the profound truth that all things are interconnected in the tapestry of existence. She closed her eyes and felt the presence of those who had walked this path before, a lineage of souls who had dared to see beyond the veil of ordinary perception, who had understood that abundance was not measured in material wealth, but in the boundless generosity of spirit that flows from one heart to another. Their voices echoed in her mind like the gentle chiming of celestial bells, speaking of triumph over lack, of the miraculous transformation that occurs when one aligns with the infinite source of all being. The lack that had plagued humanity for centuries, this sense of emptiness, of perpetual hunger for something they could never quite name, was not a punishment, but a calling. It was the very absence that drew them toward the fullness of divine abundance, the void that needed to be filled, not with the temporary satisfactions of the world, but with the eternal joy that dwells within the heart of the beloved. Maria opened her eyes and looked out at the gathered crowd, their faces illuminated by the same golden light that had awakened her own consciousness. They were the chosen ones, each one marked by circumstance and grace, drawn together by invisible threads that connected them to the greater design. Some had known their calling since childhood. Others had stumbled into it through the crucible of suffering, but all had been prepared for this moment of declaration. She raised her voice and it soared through the sacred space like a prayer made flesh. Brothers and sisters, children of the light, we have come to declare what has always been true. The universe does not operate on scarcity. It operates on abundance. We are not meant to struggle for what we need, but to receive what is already ours in the fullness of our being. The lack we have feared, the poverty we have believed ourselves to be in, these are illusions born of separation from the source that sustains us. Her words rippled through the assembly like waves upon water, each syllable carrying the power to transform consciousness itself. The air shimmered with holy energy as she continued, her voice becoming a conduit for the divine feminine wisdom that flows through all creation. The abundance that awaits us is not measured in dollars or possessions, but in the overflowing joy that comes from recognizing our true nature as co-creators with the divine. When we declare our abundance, we do not simply speak words, we become living proof of the reality that the universe conspires to provide for those who trust in its infinite generosity. As she spoke, Maria felt the presence of countless souls joining her in this sacred declaration. The chosen ones, scattered throughout time and space, were now united in this single moment of spiritual triumph. They had overcome the illusion of lack, they had claimed their rightful place in the abundance of divine provision, and they had become living testimonies to the truth that all things are possible when we align with the infinite flow of life itself. The cathedral seemed to hold its breath as the collective energy reached its crescendo, and in that perfect moment of unity, Maria knew that the kingdom of heaven had indeed come near, not as some distant promise to be realized in the future, but as the present reality that awaited those brave enough to see beyond the veil of limitation into the boundless expanse of divine abundance that is always already here, always already ours, waiting only for us to remember. The sacred flame within the chosen ones burned with an intensity that transcended mortal comprehension, each heartbeat a prayer, each breath a communion with the divine essence that had called them forth from the shadows of ordinary existence. They were not merely human vessels, but living temples, where the infinite intersected with the finite, where the celestial dance of purpose unfolded in the theater of their souls. The lack that had once consumed their being, those hollow spaces where hope had once dwelled, where dreams had withered like autumn leaves, began to transform into the very soil from which abundance would bloom. In the crucible of their spiritual awakening, they discovered that the absence they had feared was not an enemy to be conquered, but a necessary precursor to the abundance that awaited them. Like the seed that must first die to give birth to new life, their deepest sense of lack became the fertile ground upon which their greatest victories would take root. The darkness they had carried within their hearts, the void that had seemed to stretch endlessly toward the edges of their consciousness, began to shimmer with an otherworldly light, the same light that had guided the prophets of old, the mystics who had walked the earth with their faces turned toward the heavens. Each chosen one understood now that their mission was not simply to overcome the absence that had defined their past, but to become living proof that the universe itself was conspiring to bring forth abundance in ways that exceeded all earthly understanding. Their spiritual awakening had revealed to them that they were not merely recipients of divine grace, but co-creators in the magnificent tapestry of existence, partners in the eternal dance between limitation and liberation, between what was and what could be. The transformation began not in the grand gestures of heroism or the spectacular displays of miraculous power, but in the quiet revolution of their innermost beliefs. Where once they had believed themselves to be vessels of scarcity, they now recognized themselves as channels through which the abundance of the divine flowed with unbounded generosity. The very act of declaring their triumph over lack became a sacred ritual, a prayer that echoed through the chambers of their souls and reverberated across the cosmic symphony of creation itself. Their voices, raised in harmony with the ancient songs of spiritual awakening, carried the weight of centuries of longing and the promise of infinite possibility. They spoke not with the authority of those who had conquered the world, but with the humility of those who had learned to trust in the divine orchestration that had brought them to this moment of glorious revelation. In their declaration of abundance, they did not merely speak words, they breathed life into the very essence of their being, transforming their own consciousness into a beacon that would illuminate the path for others who still wandered in the valley of spiritual darkness. The spiritual mission that had awakened within them was not a burden to bear, but a gift to share, a sacred inheritance that they were called to extend to all who would listen to the whisper of divine abundance that lived within the heart of every soul. Through their example, through their unwavering faith in the transformative power of spiritual truth, they became living testimonies to the reality that the universe itself was fundamentally generous, fundamentally inclined toward the flourishing of consciousness, toward the expansion of love beyond all imaginable boundaries. In this moment of perfect alignment between their earthly journey and their celestial calling, they understood that their triumph over lack was not an end but a beginning, a launching point for an endless cascade of blessings that would flow through their lives and radiate outward in ever-widening circles of spiritual illumination. They had become architects of their own redemption, builders of a new reality, where abundance was not a distant dream, but a present reality, where the very presence of the divine within their hearts served as a guarantee that all things were indeed possible. The sacred flame within their hearts began to burn with an intensity that transcended mortal comprehension, as if the very essence of divine purpose had been ignited in their souls. Each chosen one stood at the threshold of their destiny, their spirits trembling with the weight of cosmic responsibility that had been placed upon their shoulders like a mantle of pure light. The universe itself seemed to hold its breath in anticipation of what was to come, for these were not mere mortals, but vessels of celestial intention called forth from the infinite void to embody the profound truth that abundance flows from the heart of divine will. In the quiet moments before dawn's first light kissed the earth, they gathered in sacred circles where the veil between worlds grew thin as gossamer threads. Their voices rose in harmonious prayer, each syllable a bridge connecting the earthly realm to the eternal sanctuary above. The ancient wisdom whispered through their collective consciousness, speaking of triumph over the illusions that had bound humanity to scarcity and fear. They understood now that lack was not a fundamental truth of existence, but rather a temporary condition imposed by the limitations of human perception, a shadow cast by the absence of faith in the abundance that already existed in the very fabric of creation. The spiritual battle they faced was not one of physical combat or worldly conquest, but a revolution of consciousness that would transform the very nature of reality itself. Each chosen one carried within them the sacred burden of declaring abundance into existence, not merely as a concept, but as a living, breathing manifestation that would reshape the world around them. Their mission was nothing less than the reclamation of divine prosperity, the restoration of the original abundance that had been forgotten in the garden of human experience. As they stood together in perfect unity, their individual essences merged into a symphony of spiritual power that resonated across dimensions. The ancient prophecies spoke of this moment when the chosen ones would arise to declare the truth that abundance was not a prize to be won, but a gift to be received, a recognition that the universe was fundamentally generous, and that all things were already provided for those who possessed the courage to see beyond the illusion of lack. Their hearts became vessels of divine declaration, each pulse of love and gratitude expanding outward in waves of sacred energy that touched every corner of existence. They spoke the words that would rewrite the story of humanity itself, declaring that abundance was not something to be earned or deserved, but a natural state of being that emerged when the soul aligned with its true nature. The very air around them shimmered with the power of their collective intention, as if the cosmos itself was responding to their prayers and recognizing the sacred work that was unfolding. In this moment of supreme spiritual convergence, they understood that their triumph over lack was not just personal liberation, but a cosmic act of redemption that would echo through eternity. They were the living embodiment of the principle that abundance flows from the heart of divine love. And their mission was to demonstrate this truth to all who would listen, to show that the gates of heaven were not closed, but simply waiting for the right souls to open them with the power of their unwavering faith and their commitment to manifesting divine prosperity in every aspect of human experience. The chosen ones had become living testimonies to the eternal truth that abundance was not only possible, but inevitable for those who dared to believe it with their whole being. The sacred fire within their hearts began to burn with an intensity that transcended human comprehension, each pulse of light illuminating the darkness that had once consumed their souls like a devouring storm. These chosen ones, those who had been marked by divine providence and called forth from the shadows of despair, stood now as living testimonies to the transformative power of faith itself. Their journey through the valley of lack had not been merely a trial of endurance, but a crucible of spiritual refinement that had purged away every impurity of doubt and fear. In the hallowed chambers of their consciousness, where the veil between earthly existence and celestial truth grew thin as morning mist, they began to perceive the profound truth that abundance was not something to be acquired or earned, but rather something to be acknowledged and claimed through the sacred act of declaration. The universe they understood now was not a place of scarcity and competition, but a vast tapestry of infinite possibility, woven together by the very fabric of divine intention. Their voices, once trembling with uncertainty, now rose like prayers ascending to heaven, each word a seed planted in the soil of reality itself. They spoke not just with their lips, but with the very essence of their being, invoking the ancient promises that had been whispered through the generations of faithful souls who had walked this earth before them. The language they used was not merely human speech, but a sacred tongue that resonated with the frequency of divine creativity, a vibration that could reshape the fundamental nature of their circumstances. As they declared their abundance with unwavering conviction, the very air around them seemed to shimmer and bend as if the cosmos itself was responding to their proclamation. The laws of manifestation, which had previously felt like rigid constraints upon their freedom, now revealed themselves to be flexible pathways that could be navigated with the grace of spiritual understanding. Each declaration became a bridge between the realm of spirit and the realm of matter, a sacred handshake between the eternal and the temporal. The chosen ones understood that their mission extended far beyond their own personal transformation. They were vessels through which divine abundance was meant to flow into the world like rivers of blessing that would nourish all who encountered their light. Their spiritual awakening was not an end in itself, but a launching point for a greater work of redemption and restoration that would ripple outward across the entire fabric of human experience. In their hearts burned the flame of divine purpose, a fire that could not be extinguished by the storms of adversity or the darkness of doubt. They had learned that true triumph over lack was not achieved through the accumulation of material wealth or the conquest of external circumstances, but through the mastery of one's inner landscape and the cultivation of an unshakable trust in the abundance that flowed from the source of all creation. Every challenge they had faced had been a teacher, every moment of struggle, a preparation for the grandeur of their ultimate calling. The morning light spilled through the stained glass windows like liquid gold, casting kaleidoscopic prayers upon the weathered stone floor of the cathedral, where Sarah stood, her hands trembling against the cold marble communion rail. She had been chosen not by circumstance, but by divine design, her soul marked with the sacred seal of purpose that would never again allow her to see the world through the lens of lack. The weight of this calling pressed upon her chest like a prayer book, too heavy for mortal hands, yet it filled her with an inexplicable joy that transcended all earthly understanding. In the silence between heartbeats, she heard the voice that had been whispering in her dreams since childhood. A voice that spoke not in words, but in pure essence, in the language of souls yearning for reunion with their Creator. You are the vessel, it said, the conduit through which abundance flows from heaven to earth. The words resonated within her bones, each syllable a sacred promise that transformed her very being from one of scarcity into one of infinite possibility. Sarah's eyes closed as she felt the presence of the divine surrounding her, like a gentle embrace, her spirit expanding beyond the confines of her physical form to touch the very fabric of existence itself. Here in the sacred space where countless souls had sought solace and transformation, she understood the profound truth that had been hidden from her. Until now, the universe was not a place of limitation, but a theater of endless abundance waiting to be claimed by those who dared to believe in its boundless nature. The stones beneath her feet began to pulse with warmth, as if they too were alive with the same divine fire that now burned within her heart. She could feel the ancient prayers of generations who had walked these halls, their faith and hope flowing like rivers of light through the very architecture itself, creating a living tapestry of spiritual energy that connected every soul who had ever sought the face of God. Abundance is not something to be earned, she whispered to herself, her voice barely audible above the soft rustling of the autumn leaves outside the cathedral windows. It is something to be declared, something to be claimed by faith, something to be brought into manifestation through the power of unwavering belief. As if responding to her declaration, the air around her shimmered with golden light, and suddenly she saw the world with new eyes, not as a place of want and need, but as a realm of infinite potential, waiting to be unlocked by those brave enough to step into their own divine destiny. The brokenness she had carried for so many years began to heal not through medical intervention or human therapy, but through the transformative power of spiritual awakening that revealed her true nature as a child of the Most High. The chosen ones, she realized with tears streaming down her face, were not merely selected for their suffering, but for their capacity to transform that suffering into something beautiful, something that could bring healing to others, and demonstrate the power of divine abundance even in the darkest circumstances. Her journey from the valley of despair to the heights of spiritual triumph had been orchestrated by forces greater than human comprehension, designed to prepare her for this moment of cosmic significance. She raised her hands toward the vaulted ceiling, feeling the sacred energy flow through her fingertips and into the very heart of creation itself. In that moment, she was no longer just Sarah, the woman who had endured so much pain and loss. She had become a vessel of divine abundance, a channel through which the Creator's unlimited blessings could flow into the world, transforming everything she touched into evidence of the miraculous. The chosen ones had triumphed over lack, not through struggle or sacrifice, but through the radical declaration of faith that turned their very essence into a testament to the impossibility of limitation when faced with the infinite love of the divine. The sacred fire within their hearts began to ignite with an intensity that transcended human comprehension. Each chosen soul feeling the divine call echoing through the very fibers of their being. They were no longer merely individuals scattered across the vast tapestry of existence, but rather threads woven together by an invisible golden thread of purpose that connected them to something infinitely greater than themselves. The universe itself seemed to hold its breath as these awakened beings stood at the threshold of their truest calling, their souls vibrating at frequencies that had been dormant for eons, waiting patiently for this moment when the veil between the seen and unseen would thin like morning mist. In the sanctuary of their collective consciousness, they beheld visions of abundance not as mere material prosperity, but as the boundless river of divine provision that flowed through all creation. Each chosen one saw their personal struggles transformed into stepping stones, their lack not as a punishment, but as a sacred preparation for the overflow that was yet to come. The darkness that had once seemed to consume their lives now revealed itself to be the necessary antithesis to the light they were destined to embody, like the shadow that gives meaning to the sun's radiance. Their prayers became symphonies of faith, each note resonating through the ether with such power that angels wept tears of joy at the sight of mortal beings ascending to the heights of divine understanding. The Lord spoke to them not in thunderous voices or blazing lightning, but in the gentle whisper of wind through ancient trees, in the perfect symmetry of a flower blooming in the profound silence that precedes great revelation. They learned that abundance was not a destination to be reached, but a state of being that could be claimed in every moment through unwavering trust and radical surrender to the divine will. As their collective energy grew stronger, the barriers that had once separated them from the flow of divine grace began to dissolve like snow before the spring sun. They understood now that their individual struggles were part of a greater cosmic dance, each pain a lesson, each challenge a doorway to deeper spiritual maturity. The lack they had feared was simply the universe's way of teaching them that true wealth comes not from accumulation, but from alignment with the infinite source from which all abundance flows. The chosen ones began to see their lives as living prayers, their daily actions as offerings to the divine economy of love. They understood that by declaring abundance in their hearts, they were participating in the fundamental creative act of the universe itself. Their words became sacred incantations, their thoughts divine poetry, their very existence a testament to the power of faith to transform reality. The spiritual mission that had been placed upon their shoulders was not a burden, but a beautiful burden, a privilege to be the vessels through which divine abundance flowed into the world. In this sacred awakening, they realized that their triumph over lack was not about conquering scarcity, but about recognizing that they were already complete, already overflowing with the inexhaustible grace of the Almighty. The victory they celebrated was not one of conquest, but of surrender, not of acquisition, but of reception. They had become living proof that the kingdom of heaven is not something to be earned, but something to be remembered, something that had always existed within the sacred space of their own souls, waiting only for the courage to claim it as their birthright. The morning sun cast its golden fingers across the ancient stones of the cathedral, each ray a divine invitation to awaken the sleeping soul. Elena stood at the threshold, her heart pounding against her ribs like a caged bird desperate for freedom, yet somehow knowing that this was not a prison, but a sanctuary. The air hummed with the collective prayers of countless souls who had walked these same hallowed halls, their voices weaving together into a tapestry of faith so thick it could be touched, so profound it could be felt in every fiber of her being. She closed her eyes and breathed deeply, allowing the sacred atmosphere to fill her lungs with the essence of divine purpose. The weight of her calling pressed upon her chest like the gentle but insistent hand of God Himself, urging her forward toward a destiny that had been written in celestial ink since before the first star was born. This was no ordinary moment. This was the convergence of eternity and time, where the chosen ones would rise from their slumber of doubt and fear to declare the abundance that had always been there, waiting patiently in the spaces between heartbeats. The stone floor beneath her feet seemed to vibrate with ancient wisdom, each step a prayer whispered to the heavens. Elena's journey had led her through valleys of darkness, where she had questioned everything she thought she knew, where the voice of doubt had grown so loud it threatened to drown out the whisper of divine truth. But here in this place where saints had walked and martyrs had fallen, she understood now that lack was merely an illusion, a temporary blindness that could be pierced by the light of unwavering faith. Her hands trembled as she reached toward the weathered wooden cross that hung from the altar, her fingertips tracing the carved details with reverence. Each groove and curve told stories of sacrifice and redemption, of the eternal dance between human frailty and divine strength. She saw herself reflected in the cross's surface, not as the broken woman who had stumbled through years of uncertainty, but as the vessel prepared for a mission that transcended mere mortal understanding. The congregation began to gather their footsteps, echoing softly in the vast space, each person carrying within them the same sacred burden of purpose that pulsed through Elena's own heart. These were the chosen ones, the ones who had answered the call that echoed through the corridors of their souls, even when they couldn't hear it clearly. They were the ones who had learned to see abundance in the smallest gestures, to find abundance in the most unexpected places. Elena raised her voice in a song that emerged from somewhere deep within her spirit, a melody that seemed to have been waiting for this moment since the beginning of creation itself. Her voice soared through the air like a prayer made flesh, each note a declaration of faith, each phrase a promise to the universe that lack would no longer define their reality. The words tumbled forth in a torrent of spiritual revelation. We are not diminished by our struggles, but magnified by our perseverance. We are not limited by our circumstances, but liberated by our surrender. As her voice merged with the others, the cathedral filled with a harmony so pure, it seemed to tear open the veil between worlds. The light grew brighter, casting shadows that danced like spirits of joy, and Elena felt the abundance that had always been there, overflowing in every corner of her existence, flowing like rivers of grace through the channels of her soul. She understood now that the lack she had perceived was simply the absence of vision, the inability to see what was already present in the spaces between breaths, in the pauses between heartbeats, in the moments when the world held its breath in anticipation of something beautiful. This was their triumph, not over the world, but over their own limited perceptions. This was their declaration of abundance, not as a future hope, but as a present reality, a living testament to the fact that the universe conspires to provide for those who believe they are worthy of receiving. The chosen ones stood together in perfect unity, their voices creating a symphony that would echo through the ages, declaring to all who would listen that abundance was not a reward for good behavior, but a fundamental truth about the nature of existence itself. The chosen ones stood at the threshold of their destiny, their hearts beating in harmonious rhythm with the ancient drums that had echoed through the corridors of time itself. Each soul bore the sacred mark of divine selection, yet they understood that their calling was not merely personal salvation, but a cosmic mission to illuminate the darkness that had enveloped the earth for centuries. The lack that had plagued humanity for generations, lack of purpose, lack of faith, lack of abundance, would be transformed into the very foundation upon which new realities would be built. As they gathered in the sacred circle, their hands intertwined like the roots of an ancient tree that had weathered countless storms, the air itself seemed to shimmer with holy intention. The very molecules of space around them began to vibrate with the frequency of manifestation, as if the universe itself was responding to their collective prayer. Mary's eyes, once clouded by doubt and sorrow, now reflected the light of pure divine love, while Thomas's heart, which had been heavy with questions and fears, now pulsed with the certainty of the Almighty's presence. The spiritual battle they faced was not one of physical combat, but of consciousness transformation, a revolution of the soul that would rewrite the fundamental laws governing human experience. They had learned that abundance was not a material concept, but a vibrational state that resonated with the very fabric of creation itself. Every thought, every word, every intention they carried would become a seed that would grow into reality, for they understood now that the universe responded to the frequency of their being with absolute precision. The lack that had defined their lives, the feeling of emptiness that had haunted their souls like a persistent shadow, was not a punishment, but a catalyst for their spiritual awakening. It was the very absence that would become the canvas upon which their triumph would be painted. They had discovered that true abundance came not from acquiring more things, but from recognizing the infinite treasure that already existed within their souls. The abundance they would declare was not material wealth, but the fullness of divine consciousness, the overflowing of grace that could transform any circumstance into a vessel of blessing. As they raised their voices in unison, their prayers became a symphony that transcended earthly boundaries, reaching into the very heart of the divine. The words they spoke were not mere language, but sacred invocations that awakened the dormant potential within all creation. Each syllable carried the weight of cosmic truth, each phrase a bridge between the seen and unseen worlds. Their spiritual mission was clear to demonstrate that the lack they had experienced was not permanent, but temporary, a necessary phase in their journey toward complete manifestation of divine abundance. The chosen ones knew that their triumph over lack would ripple outward like waves in still water, touching every soul who dared to believe in the possibility of transformation. They had learned that abundance was not something to be earned or deserved, but a natural state of being that emerged when one aligned with the infinite wisdom of the universe. Their declaration was not just about personal prosperity, but about creating a new paradigm where lack no longer held dominion over human consciousness. In that sacred moment, as their hearts beat in perfect harmony with the pulse of creation itself, they understood that they were not merely overcoming lack, but becoming living embodiments of the abundance that was always meant to be their inheritance. The spiritual mission they had accepted was not a burden, but a privilege, a chance to serve as vessels through which the divine abundance would flow into the world, transforming darkness into light, scarcity into plenty, and despair into joy. Their triumph would not be measured in worldly terms, but in the expansion of consciousness, the deepening of faith, and the manifestation of divine purpose in every aspect of existence. The chosen ones stood at the threshold of their sacred calling, their hearts beating in harmonious rhythm with the universe's ancient pulse. Each soul had been selected not by chance, but by divine design, their spirits woven into the tapestry of cosmic purpose with threads of gold that shimmered like starlight against the velvet darkness of eternity. They had walked through valleys of shadow, navigated through mazes of doubt, and emerged transformed by trials that would have shattered lesser beings. Now standing in this hallowed space where the veil between worlds grew thin as gossamer, they understood that their triumph over lack was not merely personal, it was prophetic, a celestial declaration that would echo through the chambers of heaven itself. The absence that had once consumed them like a consuming fire had been transformed into abundance, not through the accumulation of material wealth or earthly possessions, but through the profound recognition that they were already complete in their essence. Their souls, once diminished by scarcity consciousness, now radiated with the luminous truth that abundance flowed from within, not from without. Like rivers that had been dammed for centuries, their inner well springs now gushed forth with unlimited grace, each drop carrying the healing balm of divine presence that could mend the wounds of humanity and restore the balance of creation itself. As they raised their hands toward the heavens, their fingers dancing in prayerful invocation, the air itself seemed to tremble with anticipation. The chosen ones understood that they were not merely claiming prosperity for themselves. They were becoming channels for the abundance that had always existed, waiting patiently for conscious beings to recognize its presence and invite it into their reality. This was no ordinary manifestation. This was the resurrection of consciousness itself, the awakening of souls who had forgotten their divine inheritance. Their collective breath became a sacred hymn rising like incense before the throne of the Almighty. Each person's voice joined the chorus of their shared mission, creating a symphony that transcended human understanding and touched the very heart of the Creator. They declared with thunderous certainty that lack was not their reality. Abundance was their birthright, their spiritual inheritance, their eternal truth. The words tumbled from their lips like prayers, each syllable carrying the weight of divine intention, each phrase a cornerstone in the foundation of a new paradigm, where scarcity gave way to plenty, where limitation transformed into liberation. The chosen ones knew that their mission extended beyond personal fulfillment. They were architects of a new world, builders of bridges between what was and what could be. Their triumph over lack was a beacon of hope for all souls who had been trapped in cycles of wanton desperation, a living testament that the divine plan was not about deprivation, but about expansion, not about limitation, but about limitless possibility. In their declaration of abundance, they invited others to remember their own divine nature, to recognize that they too were children of infinite potential vessels for the boundless grace that flowed through all existence like rivers of light. As the sacred energy built within them, they felt the earth itself respond to their spiritual revolution, the ground trembling beneath their feet with the force of awakened consciousness. The chosen ones had become living proof that the universe conspires to support those who align with divine abundance, that every obstacle they had faced was simply preparation for the grandeur that awaited them. Their victory over lack was not just personal, it was universal, a ripple effect that would spread across the globe like waves of light touching hearts and minds, until the entire world would begin to understand that they were never meant to live in want, but in the fullness of divine provision. The morning sun cast its golden fingers across the cracked pavement of the abandoned churchyard, where the chosen ones gathered like scattered seeds, awaiting the divine rain. Sarah's hands trembled as she held the ancient prayer book, its leather binding worn smooth by countless prayers, each page a testament to the sacred journey that had brought them together. The air itself seemed to pulse with expectancy, as if the very atmosphere was preparing to witness something extraordinary. Elena stood beside her, her eyes reflecting the deep blue of a storm-tossed sea, carrying within her the weight of years spent in darkness, searching for light that seemed perpetually just beyond reach. She had been chosen not by circumstance, but by destiny's cruel hand, drawn into the sacred circle when the universe itself had decided that her pain would become the catalyst for transformation. The scars on her arms, barely visible now beneath her sleeves, told stories of a soul that had been broken open to receive the divine. Marcus knelt at the center, his weathered hands pressed against the earth, like a man praying to the very ground beneath his feet. His beard, once thick and black, had turned silver with the trials he had endured, each strand a thread woven into the tapestry of his spiritual evolution. He had learned that true strength was not found in the absence of struggle, but in the courage to rise from the ashes of one's own destruction. The mission they had accepted was not merely personal, it was cosmic in scope, a calling that transcended individual experience and touched the very heart of divine purpose. They were the vessels through which abundance would flow into a world that had forgotten how to receive the blessings that surrounded it like morning mist. Each of them carried within their hearts the memory of their own lack, the hunger that had driven them to seek meaning in the wrong places, the emptiness that had become their constant companion. But now, standing in this sacred space where the veil between worlds grew thin, they understood that their suffering had not been punishment, but preparation. The darkness they had walked through had been the alchemy that transformed their souls into vessels capable of containing divine abundance. Their wounds were not marks of defeat, but badges of honor earned in service to a higher calling. As the first rays of sunlight pierced through the canopy of ancient oaks, casting dancing shadows across the stones, Sarah felt the ancient power stirring within her chest. It was the same energy that had moved through the disciples of old, that had whispered promises to the prophets, that had breathed life into the dry bones of prophecy. This was not magic or miracle. This was the fundamental truth that all creation was sustained by the infinite abundance of divine love. Elena's voice, soft but steady, began to speak the words that had been written in her heart since the moment she first understood what it meant to be chosen. "We are not here because we have nothing to give," she said, her words carrying the weight of revelation, "but because we have been given everything we need to give it." Her voice rose like incense rising toward heavens that seemed to part before them, revealing the infinite possibilities that existed just beyond the boundaries of human understanding. The chosen ones had learned that abundance was not measured in material wealth or earthly success, but in the capacity to create reality through faith and intention. They had discovered that the universe was not a place of scarcity, but a vast ocean of possibility from which they could draw whatever they needed to fulfill their divine purpose. Their mission was not simply to receive abundance for themselves, but to become conduits through which it flowed into the lives of others. As Marcus raised his hands toward the sky, his prayer becoming a symphony of supplication and thanksgiving, the clouds parted above them, revealing a sky so brilliant it seemed to contain the very essence of divine joy. The chosen ones knew that they were no longer alone in their journey. They were instruments of a greater plan, vessels of grace that would transform the very nature of reality itself. Their triumph over lack was not a victory over adversity, but a celebration of the victory of spirit, over circumstance, of faith, over fear, of love, over loneliness. In this moment, they became living proof that the universe conspires to support those who dare to believe in abundance, who refuse to accept the limitations placed upon them by the world's false narratives of scarcity and limitation. The morning sun cast its golden fingers across the cracked pavement of the abandoned church where the faithful had gathered not for worship, but for revelation. Sister Elena stood at the altar's edge, her weathered hands trembling as she held the ancient manuscript that had been passed down through generations of chosen ones. Those who understood that true abundance was not measured in material wealth, but in the sacred currency of divine purpose. The words whispered from the pages seemed to pulse with life itself, each letter a prayer, each sentence a bridge between the earthly realm and the celestial kingdom that awaited those brave enough to embrace their calling. In the hushed congregation, faces reflected the same desperate longing that had driven Elena's grandmother, her great-grandmother, and countless others before them to seek the truth that lay hidden beneath the surface of ordinary existence. These were not merely followers of faith. They were vessels of transformation chosen not by accident, but by divine design to carry the light of abundance into a world that had forgotten how to receive it. The manuscript spoke of a fundamental shift in consciousness, a declaration that would ripple through the very fabric of reality itself. Elena's voice, barely above a whisper, at first grew stronger with each word as she read aloud the sacred text. "The universe responds to the vibration of intention," she proclaimed, her eyes scanning the faces of her fellow believers with the intensity of one who had finally discovered the secret that had eluded humanity for millennia. When we declare abundance, when we align our hearts with the frequency of prosperity, we become co-creators with the divine source. The room filled with a palpable energy, as if the very air itself was responding to the sacred words being spoken. Tears streamed down the cheeks of the elderly man sitting in the front pew, his weathered hands clasped together in prayer, as he remembered the days when hunger had been his constant companion. His wife, seated beside him, reached out to squeeze his hand, their shared tears becoming a testament to the power of spiritual awakening that transcended even the boundaries of mortal experience. As Elena continued reading, the manuscript's words seemed to take on physical form, dancing before their eyes like ethereal flames that illuminated the darkness of doubt and fear. Each page revealed another layer of understanding, another truth about the nature of abundance that had been concealed from the masses by centuries of spiritual oppression and economic manipulation. The chosen ones had been waiting for this moment, had been preparing themselves through years of meditation, fasting, and unwavering devotion to the principle that true prosperity was not something to be earned or acquired, but something to be declared and received. The spiritual mission that had been entrusted to these blessed souls was nothing less than the restoration of divine order to a fallen world. They were the architects of a new paradigm, the pioneers of a consciousness shift that would transform not only individual lives, but the very foundation upon which society was built. Their declaration of abundance would create ripples of positive change that would spread outward like waves from a stone thrown into still water, touching every corner of human experience and bringing healing to the wounds that had festered for generations. In the silence that followed Elena's final words, the chosen ones felt the weight of their responsibility settling upon their shoulders like a mantle of light. They were no longer simply individuals seeking personal fulfillment, but guardians of a sacred trust tasked with bringing the abundant life promised by the divine to all who would listen and believe. The manuscript closed with a final verse that seemed to resonate in their very souls, a promise that echoed through the ages. When you declare what is already yours, when you speak the truth of your divine inheritance, the gates of heaven shall open and abundance shall flow forth like rivers of living water. The sacred fire within them burned with an intensity that transcended mortal comprehension, each flame a testament to the divine calling that had awakened their souls from centuries of slumber. These chosen ones, scattered across the vast tapestry of human existence like precious gems hidden beneath layers of common stone, had finally understood the profound truth that lay buried in the depths of their being. Their purpose was not merely to survive, but to transform, to elevate, to become vessels of the abundant grace that the universe itself yearned to bestow upon a world starved for spiritual nourishment. In the hallowed chambers of their hearts, where the whispers of the divine had first begun to echo through the corridors of consciousness, they discovered that their struggle against lack was never meant to be a battle fought in isolation. The very act of recognizing their own scarcity, Their own hunger for something more substantial than the ephemeral pleasures that the material world offered had become the sacred gateway to abundance itself. Like pilgrims who had wandered for countless miles through desolate wastelands only to discover that the promised land had been waiting within their own souls all along, they began to understand that the greatest victory was not the conquest of external circumstances, but the mastery over their own inner landscape. The transformation began as a gentle awakening, like morning light slowly penetrating the darkness of a winter night. Each chosen one, whether standing in the bustling marketplace of a great city or sitting alone in the quiet solitude of a mountain cabin, felt the invisible threads of divine purpose beginning to weave themselves into the fabric of their daily existence. They had learned that abundance was not measured in the quantity of material possessions or the magnitude of worldly achievements, but in the quality of their connection to the infinite source from which all blessings flow. As they moved through their days with newfound clarity, their presence became a magnet for miraculous occurrences. The barren fields of their lives began to bloom with unexpected beauty. The relationships that had once seemed broken or distant started to mend with the precision of a master craftsman's work. They had discovered that when they stopped believing in their own lack, when they surrendered to the understanding that they were already complete in the eyes of the divine, the universe responded with an abundance that exceeded their wildest imaginings. The spiritual mission that had been placed upon their shoulders was not merely about personal enlightenment, though that was certainly a beautiful byproduct of their journey. It was about becoming living proof that the impossible could become possible, that the seemingly insurmountable obstacles that had once defined their existence could be transformed into stepping stones toward a higher reality. In their triumph over lack, they were declaring to the world that there was another way to live, another way to perceive the fundamental nature of existence itself. Each moment became an opportunity to demonstrate that abundance was not something to be earned or deserved, but something to be received with open hearts and willing spirits. They understood now that their true wealth was not measured in the gold of their purses, but in the gold of their heart's gold that had been refined through the crucible of experience and emerged purified, bright, and ready to illuminate the path for others who still walked in darkness. Their voices, once hoarse from the shouting of their own limitations, now rang out with the clarity of those who had witnessed the miracle of transformation. Through prayer, meditation, and the sacred practice of gratitude, they had learned to see abundance everywhere, in the simple act of breathing, in the warmth of sunlight upon their faces, in the love that connected them to all living things. They had become living testimonies to the truth that the universe was fundamentally generous, that it was designed to overflow with blessing for those who had the courage to believe in its abundance and the wisdom to receive it with open hands. The morning sun cast its golden fingers across the cracked pavement of the abandoned churchyard, where once the faithful had gathered to sing hymns of hope and praise. Now in this sacred space reclaimed by nature's wild embrace, a new awakening stirred within the hearts of those who had been chosen to carry the divine light into the world's shadowed corners. The air itself seemed to shimmer with anticipation, as if the very atmosphere was holding its breath in reverence for what was about to unfold. Elena stood at the threshold of her childhood's sanctuary, her hands trembling not from fear, but from the overwhelming presence of the Almighty that pressed against her soul like a warm, protective embrace. She had been called from the ashes of her own spiritual drought when doubt had become her constant companion and faith had grown as thin as autumn leaves. Yet here she stood, transformed by the grace that flows through those who have truly learned to surrender their will to the higher purpose that governs all existence. The stones beneath her feet bore witness to countless prayers whispered in desperation and joy alike. Each crack, each weathered surface held within it the stories of souls who had walked this path before her. Those who had stumbled, fallen, risen again, and ultimately found their way back to the source that never abandoned them. Elena felt their collective yearning, their unspoken prayers, echoing through time and space, creating a symphony of longing that resonated deep within her chest. She closed her eyes and breathed deeply, drawing in the essence of the sacred soil, the ancient wisdom that had been waiting patiently for her return. In that moment, she understood that she was not merely walking into a building, but stepping into a covenant with the divine itself. The walls that had once sheltered her grandmother's gentle voice during Sunday services now served as a bridge between worlds, the earthly realm and the celestial kingdom that pulses with infinite love and mercy. As she entered the nave, the silence spoke louder than any sermon ever could. The broken stained glass windows above created kaleidoscopic patterns of light that danced across the floor like living art, each shard a testament to beauty emerging from destruction. Elena knew that this was her calling to declare abundance where others saw scarcity, to manifest prosperity where others found only want to bring forth the miraculous, where others had given up hope. The spiritual mission that had been placed upon her shoulders was not one of grand gestures or spectacular displays, but rather the quiet, persistent work of transformation that occurs when one truly understands their divine inheritance. She was chosen not because she was perfect, but because she had learned to see beyond her imperfections to the flawless image of God reflected in her very being. Every wound, every struggle, every moment of darkness had been woven into the tapestry of her soul, creating a pattern of resilience that would serve as a beacon for others lost in their own spiritual wilderness. In her heart, she heard the voice of the Almighty speaking in whispers that only the pure of heart can hear. I have chosen you not for your worthiness, but for the infinite potential that lies dormant within your spirit. You are the vessel through which abundance flows, the conduit through which divine provision manifests in human form. And as these words settled into her consciousness like warm honey, she felt her entire being expand, stretching toward the horizon of possibility that had always existed just beyond the edge of her awareness. The weight of her responsibility was both terrifying and exhilarating, like standing at the precipice of a mountain peak where the world below unfolds in all its magnificent complexity. She was called to be a living testament to the truth that abundance is not something to be earned or deserved, but rather a fundamental aspect of creation itself, a divine promise that echoes through eternity and manifests in the present moment through those who have learned to trust completely in the source. The celestial tapestry began to shimmer with an otherworldly luminescence as the chosen one